every way. How you'll help me on the bus and everything. And that's the way he always was.
So that was holding hands. What about your first kiss?
Not at first.
No, I mean not the first date. You didn't kiss him on the first date?
Oh no.
No?
No, and then we doubled it with a buddy of his, and we sat in a rumble seat. You know what a rumble seat is?
Yeah, in the back of the car.
Yeah, with the back.
You know what it is?
We were in the back, and
Nikki doesn't know what a rumble seat is.
She doesn't?
Nikki doesn't. Nikki.
Oh, Nikki. Well, you don't have to explain that.
It's like you got a car, like a car only it was 2 seats in the front, and then there was like where the trunk goes in the back, but there was a seat that popped up, and you would sit in the back of the car like where the trunk is.
Oh, okay.
And we sat in, and I sat on this side, and he sat on this side. And he says, come on over. No, I'm not going over. He says, come on over. Well, his buddy heard him, and he says, Clyde, I can do that. I can help you out. So he got to the corner, and he made a quick turn. And I slammed down. I know I was just breathing in his face. And he tried to kiss me then. And I backed down and I didn't let him. No, we didn't kiss yet. And he went home and he told his mother, he says, I haven't gotten a kiss yet. And then, I think it was another couple days. Oh, I forgot my watch. That's right. I forgot my watch. And he said, well, geez, if you feel naked like that, you can wear mine. So he put the watch on my arm, and I forgot to give it to him when we got back home. So, in the meantime, I was opening up the ironing board. Somehow it got caught somehow, and the watch fell on the floor. And when I picked it up, it didn't work. Oh, and I was scared to death, and I just felt awful about it. But I was taking care of my sister's kids, so I didn't break down and cry about it or anything, but I felt awful. And we had a date that night, and I had to tell him that I broke his watch. And I was crying, and he was hanging on to me, don't cry, please don't cry. And he was kissing my forehead and my hair, and we went to the movies. And then that night, we were standing there just before he went home, and I thought, well, gee, he was so sweet and thoughtful, so we kissed them.
It's time.
So he went home and he told me his mother, I finally got a kiss.
Yeah, how many dates was that?
Oh, golly, I don't know.
Quite a few.
Oh, yeah.
More than 10 dates?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Pull it out.
Grandma was old now. She wasn't giving up no kisses to Grandpa, was she?
Oh, Grandpa kept held on though. He waited.
But I can remember we go to the park and sit on a bench and we kiss and kiss and kiss and kiss. Oh, yeah.
What was your wedding like?
Huh?
Your wedding.
What was your wedding like?
Oh, we were just tickled to death to have a wedding.
How old were you when you got married?
Let's see. 26.
26? And he was?
Well, he was 3 years older than I.
So he was 29? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Clyde's sister, we were sitting there, and he was looking for work and he couldn't find work. The single guys didn't get jobs. It was the married guys, you know.
Okay.
They had wives.
So, yeah. And so he gotten a job at Pressed Metal. That's gone now. It was kind of a war plant. And he got this job, and he said, could you take a bus to Portland? Because he said, you have a place to stay, where I don't. Can you get the bus? And I said, yeah, I can get her on the bus. So this Saturday, we were sitting there, and she said, oh, you love birds? She said, why don't you get married? And Clyde looked at her, and he said, well, oh, Rose, he said, that's not a very nice thing to say. She said, well, why not? She says, you know a minister. And we did, because for the Ross Church, I think they still, no, they don't have it anymore. And she says, you know a minister? And Clyde says, yes, and I know him too. And she says, well, all you have to do is get 2 witnesses then. That's all. And I said, why don't you get married? Well, the more we thought about it, the more we thought, well, yeah, that's okay. So
That's okay.
I went back home, and then the following week, and she went and got Emily, because she was teaching in Yale, Michigan. And she went and got Rose, and we got the minister, and we married at Rose's house. And then she had a little meal for us, and that was it.
Right, that's him. Now, how did he propose though? Did he say, well, did he say that was all right? Okay, let's get married, and that was it?
He was gonna, when in fact it was Valentine's Day, and he had the ring. And Rose, they came and met the bus, and, oh yeah, I remember that. They came and met the bus. And in the meantime, this guy picked up my suitcase by mistake. And Clyde ran after him and got my suitcase. And he brought it back, and then we went to their house. And Rose says, did you give her? He had the ring, and I didn't know it. And she said, did you give it to her? Did you give it to her? and he kind of wanted her to stop, because he didn't want to do it that way. And finally he said, oh, you spoiled it for me. And he gave me the ring.
Oh, really?
And so there it is.
So did he get down
I
on...
haven't ever taken it off.
Yeah? He never...
I don't think I can. The knuckles.
So did he get down on one knee or anything? Or?
No.
No? He just said here?
His surprise was ruined.
Yes. Rose kind of wrecked it.
We more or less kind of, from that time on, we knew, because he said, when he said I was falling, he told this woman, he says, I'm falling for her, I know I am. No, I don't. Hey, I'm doing all the talking.
Yes, we want it.
No, it was too bad, really, because the teachers didn't want him to be taken out of school. You have that, Helen, too. I have a picture of a train down the basement. It's just gotten old with age and all that, but it's one train that he had made. And my sister came home and she wanted a dress made, and Mom couldn't figure out what she was talking about. So Clyde said to Lillian, tell me what it is you want. So he drew a picture of it, and Mom knew what
That's where you get some of it from, too.
It was kind of a full skirt,
Yeah.
and then they had that sort of, what do you call it, laced here in front.
Okay.
Ruffles or...
Yeah.
So he was a fashion designer then. So Grandpa was a fashion designer.
That was the fashion then?
I mean, that was one of his skills, and he was a fashion designer. He
could have been, yeah.
drew the dress.
Yeah.
Now you had how many sisters and brothers yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
There were 7 of us.
7?
Yeah, I had 3 brothers.
What are their names?
Where am I?
Your names, the brothers' names.
My oldest brother's name was Louis, then Agnes, then Emily, and then I had a sister. I had a brother. I don't know just what happened to him, but he could not walk, and they were going to have, Mom and Dad were going to have him placed in a place, where he'd be taken care of.
Right.
And they made all the arrangements, and they came to get him, and Mom couldn't do it. She kept him. But he never walked. And then I came next, and then my brother, George, and Lillian. Lillian's the baby. Lillian and I are the only ones left out of the 7. Yeah.
What were your mom and dad's names?
My dad's name was Albert. My mother's name was Barbara. And I remember we had the 2 boys, like Jerry and Dave. And Mom said to me at the time, she said, well, having 2 children, by the time you give them the education and that's it. But I said, Mom, I don't have a daughter. And so I said to her without thinking, I said, well, if I do have a daughter, I'm going to name him after you. And
so there we go.
When Barbara was born, her name was Barbara, and Clyde said, well, you named it after your mother. How about naming it after my mother? So that ended up that it was Barbara Eleanor.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. And she always said, I'm glad I wasn't an A, because it would be Bar. Her initials would be Bar.
Right.
But as it is, it's B-E-R.
Yeah.
What was your maiden name?
Foreit, F-O-R-E-I-T.
Fort?
Foreit, F-O-R-E-I-T. I don't know. I guess my dad and mother were Czechoslovakian.
Okay.
Right, so that's where it comes from.
Did they move here from Czechoslovakia or?
Evidently they met in New York.
New York?
Yeah. I can remember being in New York and seeing the Statue of Liberty, and I started to cry. Because I can remember Mom and Dad must have come, over and saw the Statue of Liberty and what it must have meant. I just started to cry, and I realized then that they came, and I don't know where they met. They never talked about that. They might have talked to, like, my older sister or my older brother, but by the time I was that old, I didn't hear about it. And then my dad had 2 brothers. One was in Michigan and one was in Nebraska. And he had pneumonia a couple times, and the doctor said, you got to get out in the country. So he went to Nebraska, where my uncle was, and we didn't, there weren't any lakes, not very much water, and it was dry, and I remember the electric storms that we used to have. And you remember in the Wizard of Oz where they had the cellar?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had one.
Okay.
And I can remember going down there. I remember sliding down that too, and my mom said, hey, she said, one of these days you're going to get his liver, and you better not do that anymore. But, and then, I don't know, Dad raised horses. He had beautiful horses.
Nice.
I don't know what made him think, well, let's go to Michigan now. So then they went to Michigan, and I had Uncle Paul, who lived in Detroit. He was, he made suits. He was,
Okay.
Oh, Taylor?
Taylor.
All right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we bought this place out on Elsie, Michigan, a farm. And then my oldest brother, he took over the farm, but it's like she was city girl. She didn't like it. So then George and Sally took over the farm, and then Mom and Dad bought a house closer to Elsie, and we had about 16 sour cherry trees. We had a plum tree. We had a pear tree. We had apple trees. I remember, and I climbed every one of them. And I always ate the green apple. And I gave my sister a green apple, and she got second. So Mom said, Well, not everybody's like you. You're more like a goat. I ate everything green. I don't think she knew about that plum tree because I always climbed it and got the plums.
Oh, yeah?
And that pear tree, oh, it was the best pear.
Oh, like the Bartlett pears?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, and then he had chickens.
Okay.
And, of course, they were leghorn and they're a little nervous type, you know. And he didn't want the kids to follow him. And Barb, she couldn't be much more than 1 or 2 years old. She followed Dad. Dad didn't know it. And Barb let out a scream. I come running to see what happened. And she had buttons in the back of her dress, and the chickens
trying to peck them off.
They were little red buttons on the chickens. And she was screaming, and Dad didn't know she was behind him. And he didn't know that she had followed him.
She probably remembers that.
Yeah, that was it. But he and his chicken.
So lots of eggs, huh?
Yeah, a lot of eggs. And then
Fresh
when we were
eggs.
first married, Dad would send us a crate of eggs. And he said, "Oh, you're not eating them fast enough." But Clyde said, "Gee, do you know how good they are?" I said, "No, I don't. I didn't know any different." And another thing too, I said, "I can't make chicken like my mother does." And Clyde looked at me and he says, "Well, you know, you never will." I said, "Why not?" And he says, "Well, good gracious," she said, "how fresh can you get them?" Because Dad would go out and, I hate to say it, but chop their heads
Right.
off. And my mom would,
Cook it right up.
and I never liked it. I says, "I'm not going to take those feathers off the chicken, it stinks."
Yeah,
So she said to Clyde, she said, "Here," she said, "I'll show you how, and I'll show you how to cut up chicken." I know she won't ever do it. And I never did.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
But I think also things you remember as a kid tasted better than, just because it seemed better at the time. Things were simpler back then, and
Yeah. And my mother was a good cook.
yeah.
She made her own noodles. Ask Dave, he still
Yeah.
likes the noodles. And when we go to Frankfurt, he always gets the noodles.
Yeah, so Mom will make. Well, we've made our own noodles at home. Fresh noodles we make once in a
Did your
while.
mom make them?
Well, we do it. We've made them down in Florida, and we'll make like chicken noodle soup or
Yeah, once in a while.
with fresh noodles, or not too often.
Yeah, once, wasn't it?
No, I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to roll them really thin. If not, then they get really fat. So
Yeah, she did all the cooking, and she had either a wooden stove or either coal. Remember, you always had to bring in a coal arm of wood and put it in the box there.
So was Grandpa the only child, or did he have brothers and sisters?
Well, he had the two guys. I think he had a sister too that she lived in New York. I think she came once to visit us. Oh yeah, Emily told me too. She had a hat that had berries or something on it, and I cut them off.
Grandma.
She said I was a spoiled brat because I was always screaming. Well, the two of them, they'd get together and talk, and then they decided they'd go somewhere, and they wouldn't take me, and Mom would say, "Well, you better take Helen along." No, they didn't want to, so I'd scream. And this one time, they left, and I cried and screamed, and Mom was in the house, and I got up on this, I think it was a sort of a rake, had a seat, like they do in plows and different things.
Yeah.
And I went to sit on it, and boy, I let out a scream because in the back of this seat was a little pocket that had tools in it. and one had a file, and I sat on them.
Oh.
I still have that scar.
Oh, there.
Yep.
No.
I let out a scream. She come around and
Yeah, that was a.
I can remember she took me in a house and put peroxide on it, and did I ever scream? It burned.
I bet.
I still have the scar. Oh yeah, they almost ran away. They were supposed to take care of me, and they didn't. And Dad said, "You take care of her." And this one time we went strawberry picking, and I went out for quite a while. Of course, I always burned, you know. Dad jawed them all up because I was all red and sunburned.
But you got the strawberries, right?
Oh yeah, wild strawberries. Mm-hmm. We lived close to the track too, and the train went by. And I evidently, when I lived there, I got used to it. But when we come back every once in a while to visit, I go, "Oh my golly, did that train ever make noise? Wake me up!" Didn't when I was there.
Yeah, I got used to it then.
We'd wave at the guys. Sometimes they were bums, you know.
Yeah.
I can remember one time, this guy, he was evidently hungry, and he stopped and wanted something to eat. And Dad came, and we just got through eating, and he says, "Can you fix a plate for this guy?" And Mom said, "Yeah." So she got a plate for him, and he sat on the back porch and ate it. And I can remember being scared of him because I didn't want to go anywhere near my son. Maybe he'd do something. But we used to wave at him. We knew that they evidently, as they were leaving Elsie, that they climbed up on the train.
What year was the Great Depression?
And,
What year was the Great Depression?
oh God.
Wasn't that?
When we were first going together.
30s.
It was early 30s, right?
It was always, must have been when we first started to go together. We went together for 5 years
Yeah.
Okay.
before we were married, yeah. He said, "Oh yeah, we could get married and probably live here and there," but he wanted to have a job of his own. So when he came to Porter to visit Rose, he had Hazel was his sister, and then Rose. And Hazel lived in Owasso, Michigan, and Rose lived in Fort Huron. And then he came to Fort Huron. Evidently, the press mills were firing at the time, so that's when he got the job.
Okay.
And oh, that was wonderful. Then that's how come we decided to get married.
Okay.
And I went back to work then. Didn't tell anybody. I was working at General Motors, and I didn't tell anybody that I was married. Because now Edison's, if you were engaged or anything like that, you weren't given a job at all, you know.
Oh, because they felt someone in the house already had income, so you don't need to?
Fine.
Because at the economy, the way it was, they figured if one person had a job, that's all you needed.
Well,
versus
if you're engaged and you were going to get married, you'd be taken care of.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
As a woman, you mean?
As a woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I didn't tell anybody. And we were married March 21st, and I went back, and I didn't tell anybody that I was married.
What year was that? March 21st?
And March 21st, 1936.
Okay.
And so I didn't tell anybody, and I went back to work. And each weekend I'd come, you know, take the bus, and then go back. And I said, "Oh, it's not working. Now Rose is getting, so she's kind of crabby and all that, you know." She was kind of, now Emily said to me that first time she met her, she said, "You're going to have trouble. Not as mother-in-law, you're going to have sister-in-law." Because she was kind of bossy and kind of wanted her own way and all that. And, well, anyway, I lost my train of thought, but anyway,
you were talking about still working at GM, and you hadn't told them you were married.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell anybody, and I worked all of April. In May, Clyde says, oh, it's not working out. We're going to have to look for our own apartment. He said, I don't want to stay here anymore. She yells at me if I even want to go in the kitchen and get a glass of milk. And so we decided then that we'd get married. And so that the following week we did, and
that was a long engagement, wasn't it?
Huh?
I said that was quite the long engagement, a week.
Yes, it was.
you made him wait months for a kiss, but you got married like within a week.
Yeah. And I didn't even tell my boss. In fact, I said, well, I better give him 2 weeks' notice. And Clyde said, well, do you have to? And I said, well, maybe I better. So I went back, and instead of telling him that I was married, I told him my mother wasn't feeling well. I'm going to go home.
Gonna go help her. Huh? You still didn't want to fess
Somehow,
up.
Clyde had a brother, Bill, that worked in Detroit Edison's, and somehow he knew this boss.
Your boss.
He said something about Clyde, his wife. What? I didn't know that was his wife. He said, she said she was going home. He said she wasn't a very good liar. He says, I didn't think she was going.
It worked for a while, though, right?
Yeah.
So that's how Grandpa got the job at Edison, was through Bill?
No, he worked at Pressed Metals, and he put his application in there before he went to. Somehow his application was in there, and then the war was over, and Pressed Metals they were going to close up.
Okay.
So he figured, well, gee, I better go start looking for a job. And so somebody said to him, well, did you get your application in? And I said, well, I do have my application in. The guy says, oh, they usually throw them out after so long,
Yeah.
go back.
Do it again?
And then he went back and he got this job. And he was a regular worker then. And then later on he was made a foreman.
How many years was he there?
How many years was he there? Oh, golly. I don't know. I have to go back sometime.
That's okay.
But anyway.
Long time, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And when he came back and told me what he was going to get, I said, oh, we're not going to make it. Because at Pressed Metals, he was working piecework.
Yeah.
And he could just make any amount of money. And then sometimes he'd be lucky to make more money. So he kept it. Because if he didn't have a good week, well, he kept it. And we had 3 bills at that time. And I said, well, we're going to have to pay it. Because we won't be able to, we're just going to live on that, his wages. So I remember we got him some furniture, and he had the car overhauled, and then we had a coal bill. So when he was at Pressed Metals, we were getting war bonds. Okay. And so we cashed them and paid those bills, and then from then on we lived on Edison's. I can remember maybe picking up a can of salmon or something like that, so that if you run out, at least we have that to fall back on.
So how much was he making?
I forget what it was.
Was it like weekly or?
It was every week.
Every week?
Mm-hmm.
What were your bills? Do you remember what your bills were per week or?
No, I don't.
Yeah?
Well, we were renting at the time. When our first apartment was $17, and we were upstairs. And we moved in July. We found this apartment and we moved in July 17th. I can remember that. We paid $17 when we were upstairs. And we had an open stairway. And winter was coming. And I thought, oh my golly, we aren't going to make it because it was just a small register and that was all of us. It was supposed to heat up 5 rooms. We closed off one room, one bedroom, because we didn't use that. But I can remember there was the kitchen and behind that was the bathroom. I remember we always get a little bit chilly. And we even paid our rent a couple of times ahead of time because, so that we figured that at least we're going to get warm for at least 2 people buy it. He was out of work at the time. The landlord was downstairs. And then we knew then Clyde had planned on getting a heater of some sort, so we'd have that. And we went to Sears when they were in Fort Turner. I don't remember the Sears at all. I probably remember the Sears where there is now. And Clyde spoke to this guy and said he wanted a heater. He said, no, he said, you'll have to have a flue and all that. So then we knew we had to move. So he was the guy used to pick him up. He worked from 3 to 11 at Preston Olson. And he came home that night and the guy said, look, there's a sign in the window. It was apartment for rent. I said, uh-oh. He says, we're the only ones that have the apartment. Evidently, that's us. So he said, well, we're going to have to look for one. So Rose had the car. She drove. And she had Charlie, then Charlie.
Yep.
And she said, I'll come this weekend. And we'll go look for a house. And so this little house on Poplar Street.
Okay.
And it was a 2-bedroom house. And he said, let's go in and see what it's like. And I walked into the kitchen and there was these cupboards here in red knobs. I said, oh no. And Clyde says, well, wait a minute. He says, that's something that can be done, fix.
Change that.
Change your mind.
Yeah.
So I went into the kitchen, I saw a register. Went in the bathroom, saw a register. We came out, the dining room had a register, and each one of the bedrooms in the living room. I was all set.
Well, stay warm.
You were staying warm, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So you guys bought that house?
No, we rented.
Okay.
Okay. When Jerry was born there, and Dave was born there, and then when I knew that we were going to have Barb, we knew we had to find a bigger house.
Yeah.
So that's why we came to Marysville, and the second house from the corner, there's where it is.
Second house from on this side?
Yep.
Alright.
So you moved in that one first?
A big house, yeah.
Okay.
And the first house was Mrs. McPherson.
So you bought that house or rented?
I rented.
Okay.
And then, of course, we bought this property. There was 7 lots of it. And we paid $1,000. No, we paid $700 for it. And then when we started to build this house, then Parneskis lived next door to us. And they bought for free, and we sold it for $1,000.
Alright, you made
So they bought 3 lots from you, and then you made your money back plus.
Great deal. Smart move. Very good.
Yep.
So did Grandpa help build the house?
Oh, yes. My God, he put the flooring in. He did all that. And, well, we were building this house at the time. And we did have, what do you call a guy that takes care of everything. What do you call him?
A contractor?
Contractor, yeah.
And his son was building a house at the same time. And when we were supposed to get all the lath that we needed for our house, it came in. And of course we didn't know about it. And Clyde said, well, we should be getting this lath, so what's happened? And so he went to find out, went to Depot to find out why, and God says, well, you're Clyde F, aren't you? And he said, yes. He said, well, you've gotten it already. And Clyde said, well, if it did, I don't know where it is. And come to find out that he had gotten it for his son. And there we were.
So that was basically a form of identity theft back then.
And so we had to take what it was, I forget. And I can remember just going across the floor and I'd get a shock. And I couldn't even take a bath and I'd get a shock. I don't know what it was.
Huh.
But anyway, oh yes, he put the flooring in, he did that, he put the doors. I remember we moved here in November, and it was cold, and they were having a parade, a Santa Claus parade.
Yeah.
So Rose says, well, let's take the kids and go and see the parade. And we didn't even have the door here. It was a great big plank that they had, and you had to put kind of a stick against it to hold it up. We put that up and we went.
No reason to miss the parade.
So no, we didn't. And I said to the kids now when we moved here, it was all wet yet, you know, and it hadn't dried yet. But what do you call it?
Okay.
A little bit.
Plaster?
Yeah. And so I said, now you have to go to the bathroom before, because we didn't even have a bathroom yet.
Yeah.
And so then that guy came, Clyde found a guy in Marysville, and he said, oh yeah, I can put the toilet in.
Yeah.
So he came and he got through around 12 o'clock. I put the kids to bed, and I said, they, of course, couldn't go to the bathroom or anything. We didn't have one. And he left about 12 o'clock, and Clyde came up and he said, well, we got a bathroom, or toilet now. Who's going to be first? I said, I am. And I skipped in there. I was the first one. Oh, yes. He did everything. He put in the doors and hung. He never did that before. He had to do it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We had to do it, or...
Well, he was handy. With his tool shop and everything that he had going.
Yeah. Yeah, he's jack of all trades. He could do that. We had to learn.
What year did you move in?
Moved in here.
Yeah. What year? You remember?
Barb was born. Must have been 1944 or 1945, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah. Jerry was born in 1929, and Dave 41, and she's 2 years younger, so yeah, I was 44. I can remember us walking down the alley and coming in here, and she says, where's my room going to be? And I remember it was just the petitions up and things like that. I said, that's going to be your room.
So your room, the boys' room was where?
Yeah, the yellow one.
They share.
Yellow? Huh.
I'd never do it again.
No?
No, because it was hard to be without a home and not knowing what we're going to do. It was tough.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
But you made it.
Well, you say you didn't have a home.
When they were renting, you mean?
Oh, when you were renting?
What?
What do you mean you didn't have a home?
We didn't have a home?
No, you just said what was scary. What was scary? You said you'd never do it again.
Go through that because it was, here we were, didn't know whether we were going to have a home, didn't know whether he was going to finish it, didn't know when it was being built. Yeah, and it was scary. But in fact, Rose, Bill, his brother, lived in Detroit, and they'd come to visit us. And Bill loved Portland. He hated Detroit. He says it's dirty, and he didn't like it. But of course, his job was in Edison's, and he said if he'd had a job, could find a job here in Portland, he'd move in a minute. But anyway, well, I don't know. He liked it. He liked out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think what I was talking about. Anyway.
Oh, we're talking about the house. You said it was scary building it, and he was going to move here if he could, because he liked Fort Heron. Yeah.
So did Bill ever move here?
No, Bill never did. He passed away. He had the two boys, Bill and they're both gone, Bill and the other guy. Can't think of his name now right now.
Who was named Lauren? Who was named Lauren? And my dad's middle name is Lauren.
Oh,
and he was named after.
Yeah, a brother of his. I didn't know him. Yeah, Lauren.
So it was a brother of Clyde's? Lauren was a brother of Clyde?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the service.
Was Grandpa ever in a war?
Grandpa what?
Was Grandpa in a war?
No.
No?
No. No, he already had the kids, Gerald and Barbara. And also they didn't take Mary died.
No?
But he had passed the physical. But he had, Clyde had arthritis in his back, but it didn't show up. And he was working at this Henry Ford farm. Henry Ford had this farm for the boys, you know. And he was working out in the garden. Of course, Clyde wasn't really a big, heavy guy or anything like that.
No.
And so the rest of the boys were picking up potatoes, you know. And they had a bag of potatoes, slinging them across his back. So he did the same thing, you know. You know, thought he was...
Yeah.
And he said he knew then that something kind of cracked in his back. But he didn't realize what it was. And he didn't show up until, well, we were married, and he'd have such awful pain, you know. And we were going to the doctors then. And, I can remember. It was terrible sometimes. Even our neighbor woman, she said, I can see Clyde's face just turn white that he was in pain. So we'd go to Canada. There was a doctor there. And he says, I can help you. But you'll never be able to bend over. So what he kind of either did something about his bones in his back that he couldn't bend over. But that's why he was always on the ground, on his knees when he did any reading or anything like that. And our neighbor would say, okay, say one for me, Clyde.
So that took care of the pain?
Yes,
pretty much.
It did.
Yeah.
And he didn't have that pain anymore.
What war was going on then? Was it World War II, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm glad he didn't. I said to the doctor, will they take him? And he said, no, I wouldn't be worried about it. And he's had the kids now. And besides, he's working in a war plant, so don't worry about it. So I was glad then that he was never taken. But it was a little bit scary at the time, too. I wondered whether he would be, but he wasn't. But like I say, he was going to do everything like anybody else. And he said then that he knew then that's when it happened. He knew that he'd done something.
Now, you never worked again after that, did you? Other than raising the kids? Yeah.
Me, no. No, when I came to Fort Heron, and he said, well, I won't stop you from working. If you get a job, he said, I won't stop you. But he said, it would be kind of hard because he worked 3 to 11. I'd probably work days.
Right.
We wouldn't see each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
That too, yeah.
So I never worked.
Did he work 3 to 11 all those years?
And he liked it. I didn't like it. I didn't like to be home alone and the kids got so, and that they always wanted their dad home at home. When he got to Edison, he was glad to work days. And he was hurt at Edison, and he and another guy was carrying something, I don't know what it was. And this guy realized that he was losing it. And he started to drop it, and Clyde didn't. And he dropped on his foot. And it smashed a couple of toes, and broke his instep. So he was out of work for a while. And he had told Rose, it was New Year's Day. And he said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of the time. I'm going to smoke a cigar, I'm going to read a magazine, and I'm going to sit in my favorite chair. The next day that happened. Rose said, you shouldn't have said that. And he felt terrible that he couldn't help me. And I was working with the key, and taking care of everything. And he says, well, give me something to do. I can't sit there and watch you do. And the sewing machine is in the bedroom there. I gave him the drawer, and he straightened them out. He said, what else give me? Give me something to do. But he hated that. And his boss came to see him, and he said to me then, he said, well, when he was hired, he says, if I'd have had my way, this wouldn't have never happened. He'd have been made a foreman right away. Listen, I'm doing all the talking. How about you?
We want to hear.
Come on, you tell me about your...
About what?
You tell me what you've been doing all this
What I've
time.
been doing? I told you got my license.
You've been what?
Got my license.
Working. She's the one. I remember Clyde, of course, his eyes, and he couldn't get him another license. And he said, oh, I don't know what we're going to do. Of course, I didn't drive then. I didn't know how. And he said, oh, I don't know what we're doing. So we took the bus. And so finally I said to Clyde, I think I ought to learn how to drive. And so he said, would you? And I said, yes. We called this, what was the name of them? Palmatiers or something?
Yeah, I remember Palmatiers driving.
Yeah.
So,
And we called, and she came, and she'd take me out. And of course, she took me different places. But then your mother came, she'd take me out. Well, she was the one I learned from Carolyn more than I did from this girl. And so then I had to get my license. Oh, God. I was so nervous and scared. I passed it. And she said, well, you're going to drive home, aren't you? And I said, no. I said, well, you drive home this time. And from then on, I will drive. I don't know. I remember Clyde was probably sitting on pins and needles all day.
Someday